The day my parents handed my entire college fund, every single dollar I had been promised since birth, to my brother, my dad looked me straight in the eyes and said, "You're smart enough to figure it out on your own." I was 18 years old. I had $43 in my bank account, and I was standing in the kitchen holding my acceptance letter to university, the one I'd worked 4 years to earn. My brother, he had a 1.9 GPA. He'd failed 2 classes. He'd crashed Dad's car twice. But according to my parents, he was the one who needed the money. What they didn't know was that 11 years later, he would walk into a job interview, nervous, sweating, desperate, and sit down across the table from me. And I made him wait for 2 hours, just like they made me wait my entire childhood. Let me take you back. My name is Claire. I grew up in a middle-class family in Ohio. Mom, Dad, me, and my brother Derek. From the outside, we looked completely normal. Nice house, family dinners, Christmas photos. But inside that house, there were 2 completely different children being raised. Derek was the golden child, the boy, the one who carried the family name. My parents treated him like he was made of glass, precious, fragile, always protected. And me, I was the responsible one, the quiet one, the one who never caused problems, because I learned very early that causing problems got you ignored even more. I started working at 14, a part-time job at a bakery on weekends. I saved every dollar. I studied every night. I never asked my parents for anything because I already knew the answer would be, ask your brother first. See if he needs it. And Derek coasted through life like it was a lazy river. He barely showed up to school. He partied. He borrowed money from my parents constantly and never paid it back. And every single time, they smiled and said, "He's just finding himself." Meanwhile, I found myself at age 14, alone, in a bakery, at 5 a.m., making minimum wage. But I didn't complain, because I had a plan. I was going to go to college. I was going to study business. And I was going to build something mine, something no one could take. I applied to 6 universities, got accepted to 4, chose the best business school in the state, and I came home that evening with my acceptance letter, shaking with excitement, thinking, finally, this is my moment. Mom hugged me. Dad said, "That's great, honey. Actually, we need to talk to you about something." We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where every important family decision had been made. Derek was there too, not looking at me, staring at his phone. Dad cleared his throat. He put his hands flat on the table like he was about to deliver a business presentation. And then he said it. "Claire, we've been thinking. Derek needs a fresh start. He's going to enroll in the state technical college, and we're going to use the college fund to cover his tuition, housing, and expenses." I remember the exact sound of the clock on the wall. Tick, tick, tick. "The college fund," I repeated. "My college fund. The one you've been building since I was born. The one you promised me." Mom reached across the table. "Sweetheart, you're strong. You're capable. You'll find scholarships. Derek needs more support right now. You understand, don't you?" Do I understand? I had $43. My university deposit was due in 3 weeks. And they were asking me, the responsible child, to sacrifice my future so the irresponsible one could have another chance he didn't earn. I looked at Derek. You know what he did? He shrugged. He actually shrugged. And then he said, "Sorry, sis. It is what it is." I stood up from that table. I picked up my acceptance letter. I walked to my room. I closed the door quietly because even in my worst moment, I didn't want to cause a scene. And then I sat on my bedroom floor, and I made myself a promise, not out of anger, not out of hate, but out of pure, cold, quiet determination. I will build something so big that they cannot ignore it. And when that day comes, I will make sure they remember this table, this moment, this choice they made. I was 18 years old, and that was the night I truly grew up. I didn't go to my first choice university. I couldn't afford it. Instead, I enrolled in the same state college Derek was going to, but I did it completely differently. I applied for every scholarship I could find. I worked 30 hours a week while taking a full course load. I ate rice and eggs for months. I wore the same 3 outfits in rotation. I didn't go to parties. I didn't have a social life. While Derek was failing his classes again and calling mom and dad for extra money every other week, I was graduating with honors. While he was sleeping in on weekdays, I was interning at a startup downtown, working for almost nothing, learning everything. After graduation, I got a junior position at a mid-sized tech company. Small salary, long hours, but I absorbed everything like a sponge. My parents called sometimes, asking how I was. I always said, fine, great, everything's good, because I wasn't doing this for their approval anymore. I was doing it for me. Derek bounced around. 3 jobs in 2 years. Always had an excuse. Always had a reason why it wasn't his fault. The economy. The boss. Bad luck. Year 3, I got promoted to team lead. Year 5, I was managing a full department. Year 7, a venture capital firm noticed our division's performance and approached me personally. They didn't approach my boss. They didn't approach the CEO. They approached me, a 25-year-old woman from Ohio who used to wake up at 5 a.m. to bake bread so she could afford textbooks. I sat in that meeting room with 3 investors in suits, and I thought about that kitchen table. And I smiled. We launched the company, a B2B tech solutions firm. I was co-founder and COO. We started with 8 employees in a rented office space. Year 1, we broke even. Year 2, we turned a profit. Year 3, we had 60 employees, 3 corporate contracts, and were featured in a regional business magazine. My parents saw the article. Mom called. "Oh, Claire, we're so proud. We always knew you'd do something wonderful." I said, "Thank you, Mom." And I meant it neutrally, completely neutrally, because their pride wasn't my fuel anymore. It was a Tuesday morning. I was in back-to-back meetings. My assistant knocked and handed me a note. Derek Thompson called. Says he's your brother. Wants to schedule an interview for the operations manager position. I read that note 3 times. Derek, my brother, was applying to my company for a senior position. I sat back in my chair, took a breath, and I thought very carefully about what kind of person I wanted to be in this moment. I could have said no immediately. I could have had my assistant send a polite rejection. Nobody would have blamed me. Nobody even needed to know. But something made me say, schedule the interview. Standard process. Don't tell him who owns the company. Because I needed to see. I needed to know, had he changed? Had any of it mattered? Had the years of easy living, of having everything handed to him, had any of it taught him anything? The interview was scheduled for Thursday at 10 a.m. He arrived at 10:02, already 2 minutes late. I had my HR manager conduct the first round. I watched through the glass. Derek walked in confident, too confident, gave vague answers, name-dropped people I'd never heard of, laughed too loud at his own jokes. When asked about a time he'd failed, he said, "Honestly, I don't really think I've had major failures. Things just haven't always gone my way." I closed my eyes. After the first round, my HR manager sent him to wait for the second round interview. With me. He waited 2 hours in that lobby. 2 full hours. My assistant kept saying, "She's finishing up an important call." At 1:15 p.m., I walked into the conference room. I watched his face go through 5 emotions in 3 seconds. Confusion, recognition, shock, embarrassment, and then something that almost looked like relief. "Claire." I sat down across from him, opened his resume, and said, "Hello, Derek. Thank you for applying. Let's begin." He tried to laugh it off. "Claire, come on, this is crazy. You own this place." I looked up from his resume. Co-founder and COO, yes. Now, can you walk me through your last position and why you left? He shifted in his seat. I mean, can we just talk? Like family. This is a professional interview, Derek. I give every candidate the same process. It wouldn't be fair to skip it. And for the first time in our entire lives, I watched my brother have to work for something. He stumbled through his answers. His resume had gaps. His experience was shallow. He'd never managed a team, never handled a budget, never built anything. At one point he said, "Look, I know I haven't had the perfect path, but I've learned a lot, and I work hard." I put down my pen. I looked at him, and I asked very quietly, "When did you start working hard, Derek?" Silence. "Because when we were growing up, I worked hard. Every single day. While you slept in. While Mom and Dad paid for everything. While they gave you my college fund, the money they had been saving for me since I was born, I worked. And I didn't complain. And I built this. Every single piece of it. Myself. His face went completely red. I'm not saying this to hurt you, I continued. I'm saying it because I need to know, do you understand the value of what it takes to earn something? Because every person in this company earned their place here. And I won't lower that standard. Not for anyone. He was quiet for a long moment. And then for the first time in his life, Derek said something that surprised me. You're right. I don't. I never had to. And I'm sorry, Claire. For all of it. I was a terrible brother. I took something that wasn't mine, and I didn't even thank you for it. I've been living with that. I hadn't expected that. I took 24 hours before giving my answer. I talked to my co-founder. I reviewed the position requirements again. I thought about what was right, not what felt satisfying, not what felt painful, what was actually right. I called Derek the next morning. You're not qualified for the operations manager role. That position needs someone with 5 years of management experience minimum. You don't have that. He was quiet. But, I said, we have a junior operations coordinator position open. Entry level. You'd have to start from the bottom, learn the systems, prove yourself, just like everyone else here did. If you want it, it's yours. But Derek, I need you to understand something. Inside this building, I am not your sister. I am your employer. And the same standards that apply to everyone here apply to you. Are we clear? A long pause. And then, yes. I'll take it. Thank you, Claire. He started the following Monday. Was it uncomfortable? Absolutely. Did people whisper? Of course. Did he struggle at first? Every single day. But here's the thing about Derek that I hadn't expected. When he finally had no safety net, when there was no mom or dad to call, when he had to actually earn his paycheck, something in him woke up. 6 months in, his supervisor gave him an outstanding performance review. A year in, he was promoted to coordinator lead. And one evening, staying late to finish a project, he knocked on my office door and said, I finally get it. I finally understand what you were doing all those years. I'm sorry it took me this long. I looked at my brother, actually looked at him, for the first time in years. I know, I said. Now get back to work. And I smiled. My parents came to our company's 5th anniversary celebration. Dad stood in the lobby looking at the team photos on the wall. 87 employees, 3 office locations, 2 industry awards. He found me near the end of the night. He put his hand on my shoulder and said, I didn't know. I didn't know you had all of this in you. And I said, you would have, if you'd looked. I didn't say it with anger. I said it with peace. Because the truth is, their doubt was the greatest gift they ever gave me. It made me someone who never needed anyone's belief but her own. If you're watching this and someone in your life told you that you weren't worth the investment, remember this, the best revenge isn't making them suffer. The best revenge is building something so undeniably yours that their opinion becomes completely irrelevant. Thanks for watching. If this story hit home, you know what to do.